Hey, do you guys remember when we talked about ITV Digital? For those who don't remember, let me sum it up for you. The ill-fated British TV company ITV Digital ran some advertisements about a lovable couch potato and his monkey sidekick. Each commercial would have them hang out and talk about various topics that would relate to ITV Digital somehow, but despite the ads being extremely popular, ITV Digital itself was not. The ads couldn't save them from closing down. So it's safe to say that the ad campaign didn't exactly have the desired effect. There's a lot more stories just like this one out there, and hey, this is one of them. We're going way back into the internet history vaults for this one, folks. This is a story of an ad campaign, but not just any ad campaign. An ad campaign with a very interesting history, but disastrous results. Let me tell you all about it. This is George and Alan, a story of Volcanicity. Our story begins in the mid-2000s. The bottled water company Volvic, who is famous for having volcanic spring water in each of their bottles, really wanted to shake things up. They needed a new advertising push and they needed it quickly. Something had to boost their water sales and get them into the minds of every consumer out there. So rather than coming up with a catchy jingle or a snappy slogan, they decided to go the extra mile, or I guess kilometers since, they're in Europe. It all started with these two guys, Lee Tan and Jonathan Thake. They came up with an idea for an ad campaign about a talking volcano named George and a Tyrannosaurus Rex named Tyrannosaurus Alan, and the two would discuss the most wonderful aspects of Volvic. In the early tech demos, you can see that they always knew what they wanted. Puppets, puppets, puppets. But unlike ITV Digital, they decided to go it alone rather than asking the Jim Henson Company for help.
Hey, Alan, do you want some of my Volvic water? It's full of volcanicity.
What's volcanicity?
Soon after this demo was showed off, it was greenlit and production began. The George puppet was enormous and required a total of 3 people to operate it, 2 of which mostly focused on the mouth. Given that George was the one who did most of the talking in these ads, it's safe to say that those mouth people were getting quite a workout.
My birds! They like a fruit flavor when they're hydrating. Look! Birds!
Tyrannosaurus Alan had 2 different puppets. Each one had a blue screen glove sticking out of his neck. That sounds painful. In all seriousness, these would be for the different shots he'd be in. The puppet that had the glove on the back of the neck would be used for the front shots. Meanwhile, the puppet with the glove on the front of its neck would be used for the back shots. While the background and sky were made by a blue screen, the set itself was real. Hand-constructed and everything. Judging by the stunning production value of this, and judging by how everyone seemed very excited for the prospects of this campaign, you can tell that Volvic had a lot riding on this. It had to be a success. They needed to get something out of it, and not just something, but something big. But how did it go? Let's take a look at the ads themselves. The first one is, technically speaking, the standard one. It focuses on regular, traditional Volvic, and talks about how it's filled with volcanicity, which, despite not being a real word, would be repeated often throughout these commercials.
What are you doing, Mr. Volcano?
Hello, Tyrannosaurus Alan. I'm filling my water with volcanicity.
Oh?
Rain filters down through my handsome volcano rocks to create a wild mineral water that grabs life by the conkers and hydrates you till you shout, "Come on, world, I'll have you for breakfast!"
The second one was about Volvic with flavor, specifically lemon. This would be where we get George's name for the very first time.
George, you still filling your water with volcanicity?
And making it tasty for the ladies.
George, so suave.
Well, my birds do like a twist with their water.
Your birds? You can't say that.
My birds! They like a fruit flavor when they're hydrating. Look! Birds!
The third one is one of the more popular ones and most memed. It advertises the now discontinued sports drink Volvic Revive. It's exactly what it sounds like. As George would say,
it's got ginseng and guarana and will help keep you alive!
This is probably one of the darkest of the ads, and that's because it's about Alan here plotting genocide. I'm not even kidding! The whole thing is about him trying to wipe out the saber-toothed tiger species. How about that? The fourth one was easily the shortest. It's basically just George recapping how wonderful Volvic Revive is, while we see Alan hunting.
Stimulating new Volvic revive will help keep Alan alert for all his busy carnivorous plotting. Right, Alan?
And the fifth one doesn't exist. Yep, minus 1 or 2 revisions to the first 2 ads. That's it. This giant effort only had 4 ads that came out around the same time, and then faded away. I'll bet you're wondering what happened.
YouTube poop. Where there's smoke, they pinch back.
Around the time that Volvic launched this ad campaign, YouTube poop was in its early days, and it was looking for new sources. Wouldn't you know it, someone stumbled across George and Alan, so they decided to take these very bizarre Volvic ads and turn them into anything they wanted. They turned them into stories of the two being psychotic, Alan dissing water in favor of Gatorade, or George forgetting his lines. These weren't as popular of sources as, say, the CDI cutscenes, but they definitely made their mark, and a lot of George and Alan YTPs were made. In fact, they're still being made, some being made as recently as 1 year ago. While they're only sparsely around these days, back in the olden times, they were everywhere. As expected, this is not the kind of image that Volvic wanted. Remember, this is back in the days where companies didn't really understand the internet very well, so this could have easily been seen as mockery. In fact, the urban legend is that the George and Alan campaign was stopped entirely because of YouTube poop. Volvic got cold feet because they saw the YTPs as malicious. That's actually not the case. It could have been a reason, but it wasn't the driving factor, no. Remember what I said earlier about this needing a giant impact or it would have all been seen as a waste? It didn't get one. This did nothing to help sales. They didn't go up, they didn't go down, they only stagnated. It didn't even leave a bad impression, it just left no impression whatsoever. Which in my eyes is kind of weird given how bizarre these ads are. People just didn't resonate with the characters, so they had no choice but to drop them. Maybe it's because the jokes were so strange and out of the norm, maybe it's because every line was so loudly shouted, or maybe people thought the puppetry was uncanny. Discussing why George and Alan failed will always be conjecture, really. No official statement was released aside from the one about stagnation. Think about this. All these puppets, all this writing, all these actors went to waste. Clearly, they had a lot of ambition and a clear vision of what they wanted to get out of it. Unfortunately, by some unknown circumstances, they could never get it. So they had to quickly terminate the ad campaign and be done for good, finding something else to get Volvic into the minds of the people. But George and Alan still live on. Not just in the memes and YTPs, there's archives of all their old stuff, both the commercials and their website. Looking at their website, there was some pretty neat stuff in this. You could play games with Tyrannosaurus Alan, or you could get berated by George. This part is my personal favorite.
What the are you doing, you lazy muppet? You've been sitting on your fat for over 4 hours. You're such a waste of space. Get off your lousy and drink some new Volvic Revive. It's got ginseng and guarana and will help keep you alert. That means it could even motivate donuts like you. Oh, and while you're at it, clean your teeth.
Yeah, that was real. That was actually on their website. Huh. It seems like these days the internet crowd has a lot of respect for these two. Maybe because their writing style decided to take some risks, but probably also for the set design and how admittedly charming the characters came off, even if they were kinda loud and shouty. Even so, it's clear that Volvic wants a new image. There's no point in trying to bring them back because they won't be returning. George and Alan belong in the past. It's an unfortunate tragedy of advertisements, to be sure. They really tried. They wanted to be the new Monkey or M&M spokes candies. But it was not meant to be. 'Twas not meant to be. Man, it sure felt weird to go back to that script. That was one of the first Media Mementos videos we ever made, and now, we remade it. I know I usually have a problem with remakes, but for this, you know what? I'll make an exception. And now, beautiful friends, it's time to thank our Patreon executive producers, Leaf Razor, Valkaria, Whoop-Doo, MD the Dude, Blackjack, Nightingale Wednesday Nightmare, Unkale, Manny Paredes, H.R. Hoffman, Edward Haas, who else but Zane, and YouTube Milkwad. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then consider donating to our Patreon, which has a link in the description below. And there's no comment of the day on this because it's not a regular upload, so yeah, have a great day and see you tomorrow.